There comes a point in every INFJ's life when the burden they have been carrying for so long, a burden that was never truly theirs to carry in the first place, becomes so heavy, so relentless, so suffocating, that they either collapse under the weight of it or finally, for the first time, decide to put it down, and that decision, that rare and terrifying and liberating decision, changes everything, because when INFJs stop absorbing pain, when they stop acting as the silent containers of everyone else's wounds, when they finally allow themselves to stop being the emotional sponges of the world, the very architecture of their inner lives, their relationships, and even their sense of purpose undergoes a transformation so profound that it cannot be measured in ordinary words, only in the quiet but undeniable shift of energy that others can feel when they are near. INFJs, you know this truth all too well. Since childhood, you have been wired with an extraordinary sensitivity to the pain of others, a kind of emotional X-ray vision that pierces beyond words, beyond masks, beyond performances, and goes straight to the broken places of the human heart. And because of this, you learned early to take in, to absorb, to carry what others could not handle themselves, sometimes because you thought it was your duty, sometimes because you believed it was love, and sometimes because you simply didn't know that you had a choice. But imagine, just imagine, what happens the day you realize that carrying other people's pain is not the same thing as healing it, that absorbing suffering does not erase suffering, that drowning yourself in someone else's darkness does not pull them into the light, it only pulls you both deeper into the shadows, and imagine the shift, the breathtaking release, when you finally reclaim your right to protect your inner sanctuary, to guard your boundaries, and to say with both gentleness and strength, "This pain is not mine to hold anymore." That moment, INFJ, is the beginning of everything changing. For so long, your identity has been shaped by the unconscious role of the silent absorber, the one who feels the unsaid, who hears the cry behind the laughter, who notices the tremor in someone's voice that no one else hears, and without even realizing it, you reach out with your heart and you pull that energy inward, telling yourself, "If I can carry it, they will suffer less." But the truth, which you often refuse to face, is that you are setting yourself on fire just to keep someone else warm, and though your compassion is beautiful, your sacrifice is unsustainable. You replay conversations endlessly, not because you enjoy it, but because you're haunted by the pain you felt between the lines, because your empathy doesn't let you forget, because you absorb not just words but the energy underneath them, and over time, this unprocessed weight builds up inside you like an invisible storm, leaving you drained, misunderstood, and strangely alone, even in the middle of a crowded room. But there comes a breaking point, and every INFJ reaches it eventually, when the cost of absorbing everyone else's pain becomes greater than the fear of setting boundaries, when your body begins to ache under the strain of carrying too much, when your mind spirals in exhaustion from processing what doesn't belong to you, when your soul whispers that this was never your role in the first place, and in that moment, whether through burnout, betrayal, heartbreak, or simply a sudden awakening, you realize you cannot keep living like this, and something inside you shifts forever. You stop apologizing for being too sensitive, because you finally see that sensitivity is not weakness but clarity, not fragility but perception, and you stop equating self-destruction with love, because you begin to understand that true love does not demand that you bleed to prove your care. This is the moment of awakening, the pivot, the irreversible turning point, and it is the beginning of a new kind of INFJ power. When you stop absorbing pain, your energy shifts in ways that even you can't fully anticipate at first. Suddenly, conversations that once left you drained no longer consume you, because you have learned to stand in the storm without letting it inside your skin. Suddenly, people who once leaned on you like an emotional crutch begin to realize they can walk on their own, because you no longer enable their avoidance by carrying their load. Suddenly, you find yourself lighter, freer, more present, because your emotional body is no longer cluttered with suffering that was never yours to process. The world will notice, trust me, they will notice, because INFJs radiate differently once they reclaim their energy. The quiet heaviness that used to hang around you begins to dissolve, replaced by a steadiness, a luminous calm, a subtle but undeniable authority that says, "I know who I am, and I know what belongs to me, and I will not carry what does not." perhaps the most dramatic change happens in your relationships. For years, people may have been drawn to you precisely because of your ability to absorb, because you were the safe place where their storms could pour out, because you gave without demanding, because you carried without complaining. But once you stop, once you establish that sacred boundary, some relationships will shatter, and you must understand, that is not loss, that is liberation. The ones who loved you only for what you could carry will fade away, and though it may hurt at first, it will also leave space for the ones who love you for who you are, not what you absorb. You will begin to attract people who respect your energy, who give as much as they take, who recognize that empathy without boundaries is not love, it is martyrdom, and you will discover, perhaps for the first time, what true reciprocity feels like. Part 5. The INFJ's True Power. And this, INFJ, is where everything changes, because when you stop absorbing pain, you begin to channel your sensitivity into something far greater, something transformational. Instead of drowning in the emotions of others, you learn to guide them, to mirror back their truths without losing yourself, to stand as a lighthouse rather than a sponge, to influence not by carrying but by illuminating, and this is the real power of the INFJ mind. The ability to see deeply without being consumed, to love fiercely without losing identity, to heal profoundly without bleeding yourself dry. When you stop absorbing pain, you begin to live from your vision, not from your wounds. You begin to create instead of collapse. You begin to lead instead of merely listen. And you begin to realize that the world doesn't just need INFJs who can suffer silently. It needs INFJs who can stand tall, who can embody clarity, who can teach by example that boundaries are love in action. This transformation is not easy. There will be guilt. There will be moments where you question whether you are abandoning people by refusing to carry them. There will be old voices in your head telling you that your worth is measured by how much you can endure. But if you persist, if you stay faithful to the truth that your energy is sacred, you will step into a freedom that few personality types ever taste, because you, INFJ, are not meant to be a container of pain. You are meant to be a catalyst for change, and catalysts do not absorb. They transform, they ignite, they awaken. You will begin to notice new joy in simple things. You will feel your creativity surge. You will rediscover the INFJ intensity, but now it will no longer be bound to survival. It will be bound to vision, to purpose, to destiny. And in this way, when you stop absorbing pain, you finally begin to live not as a shadow of everyone else's suffering but as the full, radiant embodiment of your rare and powerful soul. So let this truth sink in. When INFJs stop absorbing pain, everything changes, not just their relationships, not just their energy, not just their self-worth, but the very way they move through the world, because they are no longer weighed down by burdens that were never theirs to begin with, and in that release, they discover the insane power of an INFJ mind set free. INFJ, the world doesn't need you to bleed silently anymore. It needs you to shine, unapologetically, authentically, fiercely. And that begins the moment you stop carrying what was never yours. If you felt these words in your bones, if you recognized yourself in this journey, let me know in the comments. Tell me the moment you realized you could no longer keep absorbing pain, and how it changed you. And if you're still in that transition, know this. You are not alone, you are not weak, and you are not wrong for needing boundaries. You are INFJ. And your power begins where your self-sacrifice ends. Like this video, share it with another INFJ who needs to hear these words today, and subscribe for more deep dives into the mind, heart, and spirit of the rarest personality type in the world.